Of all the things that Lucy could have done, lying to me was the least I could have ever expected. Such a lie that is life-altering, the kind that makes you doubt your potency. My name is Daniel Oruka. My friends and family call me Dan, but my wife, my sweet wife Lucy, calls me Danny. Before we continue with the story, remember to click on the notification button in order to get notified every time a new video is posted. Thank you. I could still hear the sound of her sweet voice when she pronounced it. The thought made me smile, and I began to reminisce the first time we met. It was 6 years ago when our paths crossed. Since then, my life has never remained the same. It was my break period, and I had stepped out to get something for lunch. The restaurant was packed full, and the only empty seat was directly opposite to Lucy, on a table for two. I remember sitting down and introducing myself. Breathtaken by her beauty, she had beautiful round eyes, full lips, and a very pretty face. Up close, she didn't have heavy makeup on, unlike most girls these days. But that was not what kept me entranced. It was her mindset, her outlook on life. It was different. Little did I know that this is what would almost destroy me. We started talking, and I discovered that she's in her final year in university, carrying out a research for her master's project on human physiology. I lost track of time and almost got a sanction from my boss. But I was not sad, as long as my tardiness led to another opportunity for Lucy and I to meet again. That's right, I got her number, and after that fateful day, we met on several dates. I realized we shared mostly the same dreams, aspirations, and goals. She was a breath of fresh air. I finally asked her to be my girlfriend. Both my friends and family were excited about the new change in my life. Lucy intrigued me every day. What started out as mere dates turned to marriage. The first 3 years were a bliss, and we accomplished quite a lot. She graduated with first-class master's degree. We bought our own house and even had a maid. I even began to believe the Bible when it says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from God." Not to be blunt, but Lucy was my favorite recipe. Not long after, I got promoted at work. This was a big plus for us because I could buy her a car and get her a personal driver. However, promotion came with its perks, and it required that I traveled a lot. Unintentionally, I missed our anniversary 2 times. I remember arriving home on these 2 occasions only to see her passed out on the couch from waiting too long for me to return home. I had bribed her with a car after each encounter. But I was finally getting my dream job. Our finances were on the hike up, and having a wife will not put an end to that. Today was one of those days. Our 6th anniversary, and I was late for our date. As usual, I bought a 3rd car to bribe her again. I opened the door quietly, not wanting to awaken her from her usual sleep, but that was not the case. I met her wide awake. Her face was swollen from too much crying. "Baby, what's wrong?" I asked her. She did not respond. She just looked at a brown envelope on the glass table, then walked away towards our room. Apprehension roused in me as I opened the envelope. A smile broke on my face when I saw the content of the envelope. Lucy was a few weeks pregnant. I was overjoyed. I ran upstairs, happy with the news. Baby! I burst into the room. "Baby, this is great news. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much," I said, raining kisses all over her face. But she didn't return any of them. She was cold. Baby, what's wrong? Today you're here, tomorrow you're gone. We barely spend time together, and you think buying a car will fill the vacuum of your absence? But baby, you know I'm always out for work. So what do I tell our son when he asks for his father? My God, Lucy, are we really having this conversation now? I think you saw it coming. You're not dumb. I stood up from the bed and paced around the room. True, I was hardly ever around, but it was my responsibility to take care of them. I just couldn't put it aside. But now it's not the time to justify myself. Baby, you're right. I am sorry for not being around. I can't promise you I'll always be around, but I will work hard to be better. That was how we resolved that conflict. Lucy began her prenatal sessions with the doctor. True to my word, I made efforts to stay with her and support her. This was good because our waning love blossomed all over. I bought her gifts to usage her pregnancy hormones. We spent much time together, and before I knew it, a tiny part of me was regretting the times I had neglected her. However, I could not ignore the discomfort she displayed around me, like she wanted to tell me something but couldn't. I ignored the signs and decided to give her a surprise birthday party. Today is her birthday, and I plan to make it memorable, since she is due any moment from now. With the baby's arrival just around the corner, I was already anticipating how her affections will probably shift for a while. Yeah, I know this because I spent time reading books with her. Plus, I don't want any unforeseen circumstances. I am determined to make today memorable. I smile as I add to the last decors on the table I was setting for her birthday. It was a private party for two, just both of us. I heard our room shut close upstairs. That was my cue that she's done preparing for today's stay-in dinner. I tapped on a button and soft music started playing. I walked to the bottom of the staircase, lip-syncing to the music on play. It was the same music we used for our first dance as husband and wife. I recognized the memory as it flashed in her eyes, and she became teary. But now she was standing before me and sobbing. 6 years spent with you have been the happiest of my life. It has not been easy, but your patience in love is what kept me striving for better. I love you, Luce, and I promise to never leave you. You are my world. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Lucy let the dams flow, and I could only support her with the biggest hug I could muster. There is something I have to tell you, she said, after calming down a little. Okay, but you can tell me later if you want. Today's your day, and I don't want you to shift the spotlight from you. No, Danny, I have to say it or I might lose my wit. Oh, okay. I had a feeling I was not going to like what Lucy wanted to say. My mind guessed all sorts of things, and that could go wrong. Do you not like the small party? Is the baby okay? Oh my God, is it time? Do you feel any pains? The questions poured out like water, confusing her which one to answer before the other. No, I like it. Yes, no. She stops and exasperates. Then she fixed her gaze on me. I'm sorry, she said. My lips moved to ask her why, but she held up her hand, cutting me off. No, let me finish this, baby. This baby is... A sudden pain hit her and she yelped. My senses got into full gear and I realized it was time. She tried to continue talking amidst the pain, but I told her to save her strength. I went about packing her things into the boot of the car, next her, then called the driver to take us to the hospital. About 15 minutes later, I was assisting the doctor push her into the delivery ward. Danny, I have to say this before oh my God, go in there, she said between gasps. I wanted to tell her to save her strength, but the doctor cut me off and told me the baby was already crowning. Feeling the world's anxiety, I stepped out of the delivery room. The minutes that followed were torturous, and the only sounds I heard were of her screaming and the doctors telling her to push. Richard, her driver, was there to offer moral support. After a torturous time, I saw the doctor walk outside towards me. He told me they needed blood transfer for the baby, and they couldn't get it from her mother, since she had already lost so much blood. I readily offered mine, my entire body trembling and praying for my wife and baby's survival. The doctor retreated to test the blood. Apprehension got me weary, and I asked Richard to help me pray for them. Dr. Martins returned later with an expression on his face I couldn't fathom. The blood was not a match. Realization, shock, and denial were a few of the emotions that hit me when I got the implication of what the doctor said. I am not my baby's father. I began to process the thought when the nurse called the doctor back into the ward that my wife requested his presence. He emerged later to take Richard's blood for testing. I stood frozen with shock, watching everything unfold before me like it was a movie. As I predicted, Richard's blood was a match. That meant he's my baby's father. That meant Lucy had been cheating on me. Sudden rage filled me and I attacked Richard. It took 3 guards to finally tear my hands off his neck. He immediately left the premises. Word had gone round about the situation at hand, and the nurses and patients stared at me with pity. Everything was too much to take it in. The environment became suffocating. I dropped the things I had bought with one of the nurses to take care of Lucy, with the promise of returning later. I returned 3 days later to visit mother and child. I was calmer now. Whatever anger or hatred had nursed for the past 3 days dissolved the minute I stepped into the ward and saw the baby girl. She was beautiful, just like her mom. Her innocence pulled me towards her cot, and I just stood watching her, mesmerized with how tiny she was. I returned to Lucy's bed after I had gotten my fill of watching the baby. We shared a look as if our lives depended on it. Quietly, Lucy revealed the truth behind the baby's paternity. Those times I was not around left her lonely. She yearned for some company, a baby. She didn't want to push it since I was not ready for it. So after one of our protected sex sessions, she had secretly tied a condom and done semen tests. This was an advice from the doctor who delivered her. She further explained that she had discussed with him about puncturing all the condoms at home so that I would get her pregnant, but there was no progress. So she had resolved to doing a secret semen fertility test at home, only to discover that I am impotent. Not wanting to hurt me, she had paid off Richard to donate his semen, and she underwent an insemination procedure. Lucy had always been anemic, so she had suggested that Richard hang around until the baby is born in case of any blood transfusion. I listened quietly, amazed at the revelation. So, what about Richard? I managed to ask. He is probably off for some foreign country now. Lucy saw through the worry on my face that Richard might someday return and cause some ruckus. We signed a contract, Danny. I didn't plan for you to hear the truth this way. If it were up to me, I would have chosen a more suitable time. After what seemed like forever, I smiled at her, placed a kiss on her forehead. Esperanza, I said. What? Let's call her Esperanza. It's Spanish for hope, I responded. Why hope? Why not love, Sophia, or even Rose? Because contrary to the test you did, this baby will be our hope for more children birthed from our loins. Lucy returned my smile. In that moment, I knew that our lives had taken a whole new turn for the better. Esperanza was a beautiful name for our baby. I thought with a smile. End of story.